She leaned into the man beside her, lips brushing his ear. "I can't believe I wasted 5 years with that loser, mopping floors while I was meant for this." Griffin Ashford laughed, his hand sliding possessively over hers. "Forget about him, baby. After tonight, you'll be Mrs. Griffin Ashford." She kissed him deeply. Then the lights dimmed. A spotlight hit the stage. A voice boomed through the speakers. "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our guest of honor, the man who just acquired Ashford Development Corporation in its entirety, Mr. Cale Maddox." Griffin's champagne glass froze halfway to his lips. The crowd erupted in applause, and Celeste's world shattered, because the man walking onto that stage, the man in the $50,000 suit, the man whose presence commanded every billionaire in the room, was her husband, the janitor. What happened next shocked everyone in that room, and before we go back to how it all began, make sure you're subscribed, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments, because the truth behind this story is even more devastating. The nightmare started with a photograph. Cale Maddox stood in his corner office on the 40th floor of Maddox Holdings, staring at images that would have broken a lesser man. His wife of 5 years, the woman he'd built a life with, the woman he'd hidden his entire fortune from just to make sure she loved him and not his money, wrapped in another man's arms. 2 years, his assistant Sloan said quietly. The investigator confirmed it's been going on for 2 years. Cale said nothing. His hand trembled slightly as he flipped through photograph after photograph. Celeste kissing Griffin Ashford outside luxury hotels. Celeste wearing jewelry Cale had never bought her. Celeste laughing in sports cars and private yacht cabins. The final image showed them on a boat named Celeste's Dream. He'd never bought her a yacht. Griffin Ashford had. "Sir," Sloan prompted, "what would you like me to do?" Cale closed the folder with deliberate calm. When he spoke, his voice was ice. "Everything. I want to know everything about Griffin Ashford, his business, his debts, his secrets, every skeleton in every closet. And Sloan, yes, sir. I want to know if anyone else knows about this, anyone who might warn them." That same evening, Celeste lay in Griffin's arms in his penthouse bedroom, completely unaware that her entire world was about to collapse. "Leave him this week," Griffin murmured against her hair. "I'm tired of sharing you." "I can't just disappear. There are accounts, the apartment. Take whatever the janitor has and get out. It's not like he's got anything worth fighting for." Celeste laughed. "You're right. I'll tell him this weekend. Ask for the divorce. Take what little he has, and then I'm all yours." She didn't notice the tiny camera hidden in the smoke detector above them. She didn't know that 40 blocks away, Cale Maddox was watching the live feed with murder in his eyes. "This weekend," he murmured. "That gives me 10 days." He picked up his phone and dialed. "Terrence, I need you to find out who holds Griffin Ashford's loans, all of them, and I need it by morning." 3 days later. Cale woke at 6, the way he always did. The apartment was small and sparse, second-hand furniture, bare walls, the home of a janitor who worked hard and earned little. He looked at Celeste sleeping beside him, her designer sleep mask blocking out the early light. For 5 years he'd made her breakfast every morning, heart-shaped pancakes, fresh roses from the garden downstairs, little notes telling her how much he loved her. For 5 years he'd believed she loved him back. He didn't make breakfast this morning. Instead, he stood in the doorway and watched her sleep, memorizing every detail of the woman who had destroyed him. She stirred around 9, reaching for her phone before she even opened her eyes. "The Hendersons bought a beach house," she announced, scrolling through Instagram with that familiar sneer. "Must be nice to be married to someone with actual ambition." Cale poured himself coffee. "I got a raise last month. Maybe we could—" A raise? She laughed cruelly. You mop floors, Cale. A raise for you is pocket change. It won't buy me anything that matters. She stormed into the bathroom without looking at him. Cale stood alone in the kitchen, jaw tight. But unlike every other morning, he didn't feel hurt. He felt calm. Because in exactly 7 days, Celeste would learn exactly how wrong she was. But Cale had made a mistake. A small one, almost insignificant, but it would nearly destroy everything. That afternoon, while Cale was at work dismantling Griffin's empire piece by piece, Celeste came home early. She was looking for her passport. She'd need it for the Maldives trip Griffin had promised her. She searched the bedroom closet, digging through old boxes and forgotten clothes, and that's when she found it. A receipt. Crumpled and faded, shoved into the pocket of a jacket Cale hadn't worn in years. She almost threw it away, almost didn't look, but something made her unfold it. Brioni Custom Tailoring. 1 suit, $7,800. Thank you for your purchase, Mr. Maddox. Celeste stared at the receipt. $7,800 for a suit. Her husband, the janitor, had spent nearly $8,000 on a single suit. Her heart began to pound. This had to be a mistake. Maybe he'd picked up someone else's receipt by accident. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe... She dug deeper into the box and found more. A tie clip from Cartier, a receipt from a restaurant she'd never heard of, $400 for a lunch, a business card with the Maddox Holdings logo and a handwritten note, looking forward to the board meeting, sir. Sir. Celeste's hands were shaking. She pulled out her phone and typed Maddox Holdings into Google. The first result, Maddox Holdings, Fortune 500 company, CEO K. Maddox. Her blood ran cold. K. Maddox. Cale Maddox. No, that was impossible. Her husband was a janitor. He mopped floors. He clipped coupons. He drove a rusty Honda Civic. If you're still here, make sure you're subscribed because from this moment on, nothing goes the way she expects. She clicked on the company profile. Maddox Holdings, founded by the late Harold Maddox, is currently led by his son, known only as K. Maddox. The notoriously private CEO has never been photographed publicly and conducts all business through intermediaries. Net worth estimated at $4.7 billion. Celeste couldn't breathe. She scrolled desperately for a photo, any photo, but there was nothing. Every image was blocked or blurred or showed the CEO from behind. No photographs available, every article said. K. Maddox is known for his extreme privacy. Celeste sat on the floor of the closet, surrounded by receipts and business cards, her mind racing. It couldn't be true. It couldn't. But what if it was? She needed proof. That night, when Cale came home in his janitor's uniform, Celeste watched him differently. The way he moved, the way he spoke, the quiet confidence she'd always dismissed as passivity. "How was work?" she asked, her voice carefully neutral. "Same as always," he smiled, that gentle smile she'd once found so pathetic. "Floors don't mop themselves." She forced a laugh. "Do you ever think about doing something different, getting a better job?" Cale tilted his head. "Why do you ask?" "Just curious." She kept her voice light, but her heart was hammering. "I mean, you went to college. You're smart. You could do more than cleaning." "I like simple work. It keeps me grounded." Celeste nodded, but her eyes were calculating. That night, after he fell asleep, she crept out of bed and searched his wallet. Nothing unusual. A driver's license, a debit card for a bank she'd never heard of, $37 in cash. She checked his phone, an old model, cracked screen, nothing on it but basic apps and photos of her. No evidence of billions, no secret accounts, no hidden life.
Maybe she was wrong. Maybe the receipts were old. Maybe he'd won a contest or something. Maybe it was all a coincidence. She climbed back into bed, frustrated and confused, but she couldn't shake the feeling that she was missing something. 5 days before the gala. Griffin Ashford's world was falling apart. "What do you mean the loan is being called?" he screamed into his phone. "New ownership has reviewed your account, Mr. Ashford. You have 7 days to pay $60 million, or we begin seizing assets." He hurled the phone across his office. His assistant, Porter, appeared in the doorway, pale and terrified. "Sir, the Morrison property deal. Someone outbid us by $10 million. The lakefront project, same thing. The downtown tower." "I get it." Griffin slammed his fist on the desk. "Someone is targeting me, but who and why?" He paced like a caged animal, mind racing. "Get me Victor Crane," he said suddenly. "The private investigator? Sir, he's expensive, and his methods are—" "I don't care. Someone is destroying me, and I want to know who. Get me Crane, now." Victor Crane was a ghost who hunted other ghosts. He sat across from Griffin in a dimly lit bar, nursing a whiskey with hands that had done terrible things. "Someone's been systematically dismantling your business," Crane observed. "Loans called in, property stolen, shell companies everywhere. Whoever this is, they're smart, and they have resources. Can you find them?" Crane smiled thinly. "I can find anyone, but it'll cost you. Name your price." $200,000, and I keep whatever leverage I uncover." Griffin didn't hesitate. "Done. Just find out who's doing this to me." Crane finished his whiskey and stood. "Give me 72 hours.
4 days before the gala. Celeste couldn't let it go. The receipts haunted her. The business cards. The mysterious K. Maddox, who ran a billion-dollar empire but had never shown his face. She decided to follow Kyle to work. It was insane, paranoid, probably pointless, but she had to know. She borrowed a friend's car, something Kyle wouldn't recognize, and waited outside their apartment building at 5:30 in the morning. When his rusty Honda Civic pulled out, she followed at a distance. He drove downtown, just like he always said. He parked in an alley behind a large office building. She watched him walk toward a side entrance, and then she lost him. One moment he was there, janitor's uniform and all, and the next he had vanished through a door she couldn't see from her vantage point. Celeste parked and approached on foot. The building was enormous, 40 stories of gleaming glass and steel. She craned her neck to read the sign above the entrance, Maddox Holdings. Her heart stopped. He worked here? She pushed through the front doors into a stunning lobby. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, security guards in expensive suits. "Can I help you?" one of them asked. "I'm looking for Kyle Maddox. He works here as a janitor." The guard frowned. "A janitor? Ma'am, we don't have any janitors on staff. This building is serviced by an outside cleaning company that comes in after hours." "But I saw him come in through the side entrance." "That's a private entrance, employees only." The guard's tone hardened. "I'm going to have to ask you to leave." Celeste stood frozen, mind reeling. No janitors. Private entrance. What the hell was going on? She was escorted out before she could ask more questions. 40 floors above, Kyle watched his wife leave through a security monitor. "She followed you," Sloan observed. "She's suspicious." "She found some old receipts in the closet." Kyle's jaw tightened. "I should have been more careful." "What do you want to do?" Kyle thought for a long moment. "Nothing changes. We proceed as planned. But watch her. If she gets too close to the truth before the gala, I want to know immediately." 3 days before the gala. Victor Crane was good at his job. Too good.
Within 48 hours, he traced the shell companies attacking Griffin's business to a single holding firm. From there, he followed a paper trail through offshore accounts and corporate registrations. The answer was hidden behind 7 layers of protection, but Crane found it anyway. He sat in his office, staring at the name on his screen, Maddox Holdings. The mysterious K. Maddox was behind everything. But why? Griffin Ashford and K. Maddox had never crossed paths. They moved in completely different circles. There was no business rivalry, no personal history, nothing to explain this level of targeted destruction. Unless, Crane leaned forward intrigued. He started digging into K. Maddox himself. No photos, no interviews, no public appearances whatsoever. The man was a ghost. But ghosts had origins. He traced the company's history back to its founder, Harold Maddox. He'd had a son, one son, named Cale. Cale Maddox. He ran the name through his databases. One match came back. A marriage certificate from 5 years ago. Cale Maddox, occupation listed as maintenance technician, married to... Crane started laughing. "Oh, Mr. Ashford," he said to the empty room, "you have no idea what you've stepped in." He reached for his phone. He could call Griffin, give him the information, collect his fee, or he could play a much more interesting game.
2 days before the gala. Celeste was spiraling. She'd spent days trying to find evidence of Cale's secret life and had come up empty. No hidden bank accounts, no mysterious phone calls, nothing but dead ends and frustrating silence. Maybe she was crazy. Maybe the receipts meant nothing. Maybe her husband really was just a pathetic janitor who'd somehow afforded one nice suit years ago. She was about to give up when her phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? Mrs. Maddox?" A man's voice, smooth and knowing. "My name is Victor Crane. I'm a private investigator, and I have some information about your husband that I think you'll find very interesting." Celeste's blood ran cold. "Who are you? How did you get this number?" "Those questions don't matter. What matters is this. Your husband isn't who you think he is, and in about 48 hours, your entire life is going to explode." "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about Cale Maddox, also known as K. Maddox, CEO of Maddox Holdings, net worth approximately $5 billion. The man you've been cheating on for 2 years while thinking he was a janitor." The phone nearly slipped from Celeste's fingers. That's impossible." "I have documentation, corporate records, the marriage certificate, everything." Crane paused. "I also know that your husband has been systematically destroying your boyfriend's business for the past week. Every loan called in, every deal stolen, it's all him. He knows about your affair, Mrs. Maddox, and he's planned something spectacular for the gala." Celeste couldn't breathe. The room was spinning. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because information is currency, and I'm always open to negotiation. Your husband is about to humiliate you in front of the entire city. I'm offering you the chance to get ahead of it." "What do you want?" $2 million. Wire it to an account I'll provide, and I'll give you everything. The evidence, his plans, all of it. You can beat him to the punch. File for divorce first. Claim you knew nothing about his fortune, maybe even get half in the settlement. Celeste's mind raced. $2 million. She didn't have that. Griffin was barely keeping his head above water. But if Cale was really worth billions, she didn't have that. "I'll get you the money," she said. "Just give me until tomorrow." "You have 24 hours, Mrs. Maddox. After that, I take this information elsewhere." The line went dead. Celeste stood frozen in the middle of Griffin's penthouse, her entire reality reshaping itself. Her husband was a billionaire, and she had been cheating on him for 2 years.
But it wasn't too late. She could fix this. She could go back to Cale, apologize, claim she'd been confused, that Griffin had manipulated her. No, that wouldn't work. The investigator said Cale knew. He had photographs, evidence. He was planning something for the gala. She needed leverage. She needed to find out exactly what Cale had planned so she could counter it. And she knew exactly how to get it.
That night, Celeste came home to the apartment. Cale was in the kitchen, cooking dinner like it was any other evening. "You're home early," he said, surprised. "I missed you." She wrapped her arms around him from behind, pressing her body against his. "I've been thinking about what I said, about the divorce. I was wrong, Cale. I don't want to leave you." Cale went very still. "Is that so?" "I love you. I've always loved you. I was just frustrated and confused, but being away from you this week made me realize what really matters." She kissed his neck, her hands sliding down his chest. "Let me make it up to you." Cale turned in her arms and looked at her face. She was beautiful. She'd always been beautiful, and she was lying through her perfect teeth with a skill that would have impressed him if it didn't make him sick. "What changed your mind?" he asked carefully. "I just woke up." She smiled her most seductive smile. "I realized I already have everything I need right here." She kissed him deeply, and Cale kissed her back. Not because he believed her, not because he'd forgiven her, but because he wanted to see exactly how far she'd go. Later that night, Celeste waited until Cale fell asleep. Then she crept out of bed and began searching the apartment with desperate urgency. If he was really Kay Maddox, if he really had billions hidden somewhere, there had to be proof, real proof, not just old receipts. She searched for hours and found nothing. At 3 in the morning, exhausted and terrified, she gave up and crawled back into bed. She didn't see Cale's eyes open in the darkness. She didn't see the cold smile that crossed his face, and she didn't know that her every movement for the past 3 hours had been recorded by cameras she never knew existed. One day before the gala, Celeste was out of options. She couldn't get the $2 million for Victor Crane. Griffin's accounts were frozen, and she had no access to money of her own. She tried calling Victor back to negotiate, but he didn't answer. She was trapped. Whatever Cale had planned for the gala, she would have to face it blind. Unless she could skip the gala entirely, stay away, avoid whatever humiliation he'd orchestrated. But that felt like losing, and Celeste had never been good at losing. She made a decision. She would go to the gala. She would act like everything was normal, and if Cale tried to expose her, she would deny everything, claim he was delusional, a jealous husband inventing stories because she'd asked for a divorce. It would be her word against his, and nobody would believe a janitor over the woman on the arm of Griffin Ashford. Meanwhile, Victor Crane made a different decision. Celeste hadn't paid him, but he still had information worth a fortune. He called a number he'd found during his research. "Maddox Holdens, how may I direct your call?" "I need to speak with Mr. Maddox directly. Tell him Victor Crane has information about a security breach. He'll want to take this call." 3 minutes later, Cale's voice came on the line. "Mr. Crane, I've been expecting you." Crane's smug smile faltered. "You know who I am?" "I know Griffin hired you. I know you've been investigating me, and I know you called my wife yesterday and tried to sell her information about my identity." Silence. "The question," Cale continued, "is what you think happens next." Crane recovered quickly. "I think we negotiate. I have information you might find valuable about what your wife is planning, about what Griffin is planning, and I'm willing to sell to the highest bidder." "I don't negotiate with blackmailers, Mr. Crane. Everyone negotiates when the stakes are high enough. Let me tell you what's going to happen." Cale's voice was terrifyingly calm. "In approximately 2 hours, federal agents are going to arrive at your office with warrants for your arrest. Wire fraud, illegal surveillance, extortion. I have recordings of your conversation with my wife. I have evidence of your business dealings going back 15 years. Crane's blood went cold. "You're bluffing."
I never bluff, Mr. Crane. I destroy, completely and systematically. Ask Griffin Ashford how his week has been." The line went silent for a long moment. "What do you want?" Crane finally asked. "I want you to disappear tonight. Leave the city, leave the country, and never contact anyone involved in this situation again. Do that, and I'll let you keep your freedom. And if you don't, then you'll spend the next 20 years in federal prison, and your children will forget what they look like." Crane looked at the phone. Then he started packing.
The day of the gala. Griffin Ashford was a dead man walking and didn't know it yet. He stood in his penthouse, adjusting his tie in the mirror. His empire was crumbling. His loans were due. His properties were gone. But tonight, at his own charity gala, he would smile and pretend everything was fine. And tomorrow, he would figure out how to survive. "You look handsome," Celeste said from the doorway, dressed in a stunning gown that Griffin had charged to a credit card that would probably be declined by morning. "Let's get this over with," he muttered. Across town, Cale stood in his penthouse, his real home, not the modest apartment where he'd pretended to be ordinary for 5 years. Amara adjusted his tie with gentle hands. "Are you ready for this?" "I've been ready for a long time." He met her eyes. "Thank you for being here, for everything." "I told you I chose you a long time ago." She smiled. "Now let's go show them who you really are." The gala was everything wealth and power could manufacture. Crystal chandeliers cast rainbows across marble floors. Champagne towers glittered under artful lighting. The city's richest and most influential moved through the ballroom like sharks in expensive clothing. Celeste entered on Griffin's arm, her heart pounding beneath her composed exterior. She'd made a decision. If Cale showed up, if he tried anything, she would handle it. She would survive this the way she'd survived everything else, by lying, by manipulating, by winning. "Relax," Griffin murmured. "It's just another party." But it wasn't, and they both knew it. An hour passed, then 2. Celeste began to relax. Maybe Cale wasn't coming. Maybe his plan had fallen apart. Maybe she'd worried for nothing. She was laughing at something Griffin said when the room went quiet. It started at the entrance and spread like a wave. Conversations dying, heads turning, a buzz of whispered excitement rippling through the crowd. "Oh my God, is that him? That's K. Maddox. He's never shown his face before." Celeste's champagne glass froze halfway to her lips. She turned toward the entrance, and the world stopped. The man walking into the ballroom wore a midnight blue Tom Ford tuxedo that probably cost more than Griffin's car. A Patek Philippe watch gleamed on his wrist. He moved with the quiet confidence of someone who owned the very ground beneath his feet, because he did. On his arm was a stunning woman in an emerald gown, elegant, sophisticated, looking at him with genuine warmth and admiration. But Celeste barely saw the woman. She only saw him, her husband, the janitor who made heart-shaped pancakes, the man she'd mocked and dismissed for 2 years, walking into this room like a king claiming his throne. The champagne glass slipped from her fingers and shattered on the marble floor. Griffin grabbed her arm. "What's wrong? You look like you've seen a ghost." "I have." Celeste's voice was barely a whisper. "That's my husband." Griffin's brow furrowed. "The janitor? Don't be ridiculous. That's K. Maddox. He's worth $5 billion. Celeste was shaking so hard she could barely stand. "I know." Understanding dawned slowly on Griffin's face, then horror. "No, no, that's not possible. You said he was a janitor. You said he was nobody. I thought he was." "You thought?" Griffin's voice rose, attracting glances from nearby guests. "You're telling me I've been sleeping with a billionaire's wife? That I've been destroying a billionaire's marriage? I didn't know." But Griffin wasn't listening anymore. He was staring at Cale, and Cale was staring back, and everything,
The called loans, the stolen properties, the mysterious buyer who dismantled his empire piece by piece suddenly made terrible, perfect sense. He knows. Oh God, he knows everything.
Cale crossed the ballroom with unhurried steps. The crowd parted before him. Conversations fell silent. Every phone in the room emerged to document what was clearly about to be the scandal of the decade. He stopped directly in front of Celeste and Griffin. "Hello, Celeste." His voice was calm, controlled, terrifying in its composure. Celeste was crying now, mascara beginning to streak her face. "Cale, please, I can explain. This isn't what it looks like." "It's exactly what it looks like." Cale pulled out his phone and turned the screen toward her. "I have 2 years of photographs, 2 years of recorded conversations, 2 years of evidence documenting exactly what it looks like." He swiped through the gallery, photos of her with Griffin, screenshots of their text messages, a video of them laughing about the janitor in that private restaurant booth. Celeste watched her sins parade across the screen and felt her soul leave her body. "I was going to let you go quietly," Cale said, "give you the divorce you wanted, let you run off with your real estate developer and never think about you again. But then I listened to you mock me, mock our marriage, mock everything I tried to build with you." He put the phone away. "So I decided to take everything from you instead." Griffin stepped forward, desperate. "Look, I didn't know who you were. I didn't know she was your wife. I mean, I knew she was married, but I didn't know." "You knew exactly what you were doing." Cale's voice cut like a blade. "You pursued a married woman. You encouraged her to leave her husband. You laughed about stealing another man's wife. The only thing you didn't know was the price." He turned to face Griffin fully. "As of 6 o'clock this evening, I own Ashford Development Corporation. Every property, every debt, every asset. Your penthouse lease has been terminated. You have until midnight to vacate. Your bank accounts are frozen pending an audit. And the car you drove here tonight?" Griffin's phone buzzed. He looked at it with trembling hands. "Your vehicle has been impounded by Maddox Holdings, LLC," he read aloud. "You built your empire on loans and lies," Cale said. "I dismantled it in 7 days. That's the difference between new money and old money, Griffin. New money borrows, old money owns." Griffin looked like he might vomit, but Cale was already turning back to Celeste. "Now, let's discuss your divorce demands." Celeste fell to her knees, her designer gown pooling around her like a failed parachute. "Cale, please, I made a mistake, a terrible mistake, but I love you. I've always loved you. Please don't do this." "You love me?" Cale crouched down to her level, his voice soft. "You said you'd love me if I was a janitor or a king. Those were your exact words when I proposed. I'd love you if you mopped floors or wore a crown." His eyes hardened. "But you couldn't love the janitor for 5 years without looking for an upgrade. So no, Celeste, you don't love me. You love what you think I can give you." He reached into his jacket and pulled out a document. "These are divorce papers. I've already signed them. You'll receive exactly what our prenuptial agreement allows." "We never signed a prenup." "Actually, we did. 3 days before our wedding, you signed what you thought was a joint account authorization form. You were too busy planning the ceremony to read it carefully." He highlighted a specific clause. "In the event of infidelity, proven by photographic or recorded evidence, the unfaithful party forfeits all claims to marital assets." Celeste's scream echoed through the silent ballroom. "That's fraud! You tricked me!" "I protected myself," Cale said. "There's a difference." He turned and walked away without looking back.
Celeste remained on her knees, sobbing uncontrollably as 300 phones recorded every moment of her destruction. Amara was waiting at the edge of the crowd. "How do you feel?" Cale took her arm, and they walked toward the exit together. "I thought I'd feel vindicated, satisfied." He paused. "But I just feel free." "That's enough," she smiled. "Freedom is enough." Behind them, Celeste's wails filled the ballroom, and Griffin Ashford sat alone at an empty table, watching his entire life crumble into dust.
1 month later, the divorce was finalized on a Tuesday. Celeste sat in a cold courthouse, signing papers that reduced her life to nothing. The prenup was ironclad. The evidence was overwhelming. Her lawyer couldn't even make eye contact. She walked out with a single suitcase and $847 in her bank account. Everything else belonged to Cale. Everything else had always belonged to Cale. Griffin Ashford fared no better. The news cameras captured him being escorted from his former penthouse by creditors and moving crews. His company had filed for bankruptcy. His assets had been seized. The man who'd once called himself the city's most successful developer couldn't afford a hotel room. Headlines blazed across every screen for weeks. Mystery billionaire revealed, the janitor CEO. Cheating wife loses everything in viral Gala confrontation. Ashford Development declares bankruptcy. The $5 billion lesson. The video of Celeste's breakdown at the Gala went viral. 20 million views in the first week, memes and reaction videos, and endless commentary about gold diggers and karma. She became a cautionary tale, a punchline, a warning. 3 months later, Celeste worked as a waitress now. The diner was grimy and loud, filled with customers who didn't tip and managers who didn't care. Her designer clothes were gone. Her manicures were gone. Her friends, every single one of them, had vanished like smoke the moment the money disappeared. She was invisible now, less than invisible. She was a joke. One night, near closing time, the bell above the door chimed. She turned with her practiced smile and froze. Griffin Ashford stood in the doorway. He looked terrible, unshaven, thin, wearing clothes that had clearly seen better days. "What do you want?" Celeste's voice was ice. "I have nowhere else to go." He shuffled forward, eyes bloodshot. "I thought maybe we could figure things out together. We're both in the same situation now. We could help each other." Celeste stared at him. This man, this pathetic, broken man. She'd thrown away a billionaire husband for this. "You did this to me," she said slowly. "If you hadn't pursued me, I'd still be married. I'd be living in a penthouse right now, wearing real diamonds, flying on private jets. I didn't know. I was married to $5 billion. Her voice rose to a shriek. "And I left him for a man who couldn't even keep his own company. You ruined me." "Celeste, please, get out." She grabbed a coffee pot and hurled it at him. Griffin fled into the night. Celeste stood alone in the empty diner, surrounded by broken glass and cooling coffee, and finally let herself cry. 6 months later, morning light streamed through the floor-to-ceiling windows of Cale's penthouse. He stood on the balcony in jeans and a simple sweater, watching the city wake up below. His city now, openly, proudly, without disguise. Amara joined him with 2 cups of coffee. "You're up early." "Old habits," he smiled. "I spent so many years pretending to be a janitor that waking up at 6 feels normal." She handed him a cup and stood beside him, shoulders almost touching. "Any regrets?" Cale considered the question. "I regret hiding for so long. My father was trying to protect me when he made me promise to test anyone who might love me. But you can't build a relationship on tests and secrets. You have to trust eventually. You have to let people see who you really are. He turned to look at her. You knew both versions of me. The janitor who showed up every morning smelling like floor cleaner, the CEO who ran billion-dollar meetings by afternoon, and you treated me exactly the same either way. Because they're both you. Amara's voice was soft. The guy who mops floors to stay humble, and the guy who runs an empire. One isn't more real than the other. I loved her, Celeste. I really did love her. I thought if I could just be ordinary with her, we could be happy. I thought the money would only complicate things. And now? Now I know the truth. The money didn't destroy us. Her character did. If she'd really loved me, the real me, whoever that is, she would have stayed. She would have built a life with me in that tiny apartment and never looked for something better. He shook his head. But she was always looking, always calculating, always ready to trade up. I was just too blind to see it. Amara took his hand. For what it's worth, I think the man who makes heart-shaped pancakes and picks roses from the garden is pretty special, with or without the billions. Cale smiled, a real smile, the first one that reached his eyes in months. Stay with me, he said, not because of the money or the penthouse, just stay. Amara squeezed his hand. I already told you, I chose you a long time ago, back when you still smelled like floor cleaner and ate lunch alone in the break room. Everything else is just bonus. They stood together as the sun rose over the city. Not his city anymore, theirs. 1 year later. The morning news played on a small television in a cramped studio apartment. And in entertainment news, billionaire Cale Maddox was spotted this weekend at the grand opening of the Maddox Foundation Children's Hospital. The famously private CEO, who shocked the world last year when he revealed his identity at a charity gala, was accompanied by his wife, Amara Maddox. The couple, who married in a private ceremony 6 months ago, announced they're expecting their first child in spring. Celeste stood frozen in front of the screen. Wife. Child. The camera showed Cale and Amara on a red carpet, laughing together, clearly in love. Amara's hand rested on her barely visible bump. Cale looked at her like she was the only person in the world. He'd never looked at Celeste like that, not once in 5 years. She'd thought she was the prize. She'd thought she was doing him a favor by staying. She'd thought any man would be lucky to have her. But Cale Maddox had moved on. He'd found someone who loved him for exactly who he was, janitor and king and everything in between. And Celeste was still here, in this tiny apartment, working double shifts, eating instant noodles, alone.
That night, after her shift ended, Celeste walked home through streets she used to drive through and luxury cars. She passed restaurants where she used to dine without looking at prices. She passed boutiques where she used to shop without counting. She passed the building where Cale's modest apartment had been, the apartment she'd despised, complained about, couldn't wait to escape. It was just a building now. Someone else lived there. Someone who probably had no idea that a billionaire had once pretended to be ordinary within those walls, making heart-shaped pancakes for a woman who didn't deserve them. Celeste stopped walking. She looked up at the window that used to be theirs, and for the first time, she let herself remember. Not the limitations, not the frustrations, not the things she'd thought she was missing, but the mornings she'd woken up to breakfast in bed, the roses on her nightstand, the little notes that said, "I love you," in a dozen different ways, the man who'd worked so hard to make her happy, a man she'd dismissed as beneath her. She'd had everything. Everything, and she'd thrown it away for borrowed diamonds and empty promises. The tears came then, not the dramatic, self-pitying tears she'd cried at the gala, but quiet tears, private tears, the kind that come when you finally understand, truly understand, what you've lost. She'd spent her whole life chasing more money, more status, more luxury, and in the end,
She'd lost the one thing that actually mattered. A man who loved her. A man who would have given her the world if she'd just been patient enough to wait for it. A man who made heart-shaped pancakes. The city lights blurred through her tears as Celeste finally confronted the truth she'd been running from for a year. She'd thought she was trading up. She'd thought Griffin Ashford was the prize. But the prize had been there all along, in a faded work shirt, with calloused hands and a gentle smile, asking nothing but to be loved. And she'd been too blind to see it. That was her punishment. Not the poverty, not the loneliness, not the public humiliation. Her punishment was knowing exactly what she'd had, knowing exactly what she'd lost, and knowing she would never, ever get it back. Across the city, in a penthouse high above the glittering lights, Cale Maddox held his wife close and felt the baby kick. "Did you feel that?" Amara laughed. "I felt it." He pressed his hand against her stomach, marveling at the movement beneath. "Strong kick. Probably going to be stubborn like her mother." "Or his mother," Amara raised an eyebrow. "We don't know yet." "Either way, perfect." They stood together at the window, looking out at the city that sprawled beneath them. "Do you ever think about her?" Amara asked quietly. "Celeste?" Cale was silent for a moment. "Sometimes, not with anger anymore, not even with sadness, just wondering how someone could have everything and still want more. Maybe some people are just built that way. Maybe," he kissed her forehead, "but not you, never you." Amara smiled and leaned into him. "I have everything I need right here." "So do I." The city sparkled below them like a universe of possibilities. And for the first time in Cale's life, Cale wasn't hiding. He wasn't pretending. He was just home. If this story stayed with you, subscribe to this channel, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments section. See you in the next.